Welcome back to another episode of the Bad Influence Podcast. I'm Bjordan Banderas. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that follow, subscribe button so you don't miss out on any episodes. Now, on today's episode, I want to talk about something that happened to me most of my life. Actually, up until 6 years ago, which is when I started working on myself. And I also have seen others do the exact same thing. I'm referring to the fact that we keep repeating our past. In a lot of cases, we keep making the same mistake. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And pretty much just take the punches that life throws at us. And sometimes we get so mad that we're just like, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep repeating my past? Why do we keep repeating our past? I did that. And right now I have seen a lot of people actually do the same thing that I was doing just 6 years ago. So that's why I want to talk about that, because here's the thing. In a lot of cases, we keep repeating our past. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. But we do it with relationships. We do it with career choices that literally lead to unfulfillment. And we also do it with certain patterns that we do, like we create bad habits that actually lead to either getting sick or pretty much not doing anything in life, right? Sometimes we have this bad habit of just watching TV for days at a time. And sometimes we don't even get up. There's people that do that. That's why they call couch potatoes. That's why they call them couch potatoes. Because of situations like that where all they do is watch TV. And I was like that. So I'm not putting shame on anybody or anything like that, because I was exactly like that. I was a couch potato. And what happens in this type of situations when we create these behaviors and bad habits, and this even includes habits of self-sabotage, where we tell ourselves that, we can't do it. Once we get to a certain level, it's like, this is all I can do. I can't do it anymore. This is too hard. I'm not good enough, That's a bad habit. And then we keep repeating the past where we stop. We keep repeating the past where we literally say to ourselves, this is good enough for me. And then we feel bad about it because deep inside, we know that we can actually do more. I know how that feels, and it's not a good feeling, because the problem is that sometimes life, it feels like we're stuck on repeat. We pretty much keep replaying the same mistake over, and then we make it again and again and again. We do that same mistake, and we literally can't find a way out of the situation that is holding us back, which obviously it can lead to depression. It can lead to so many things. It can lead to anger. It's just bad. But here's the thing though. Finding a way to break free from repeating our past takes a lot of courage. And I mean a lot of courage, because you have to have this commitment to yourself, and you have to literally lead yourself to the life you want. You have to lead yourself out of the situation that you're on right now, or that you're in right now. And what happens is that a lot of people don't understand this, and it took me years to understand that, is that if you're repeating your past right now, like let's say you keep getting into toxic relationships one after the other and shit like that, you have to literally look forward. You have to say to yourself, this is what I want on my next relationship. And then you actually have to lead yourself to that relationship. You have to literally work on yourself, on how to identify red flags, on how to literally understand when it's abuse and not like some sort of love or love or whatever, because that's what people say sometimes is like, oh, it's just my form, that this is just how I show love. Well, if that's abusive for you or to you, then you have to figure out a way how to identify that. That's pretty much how you find a way out of that situation. And that's one of the reasons why it takes so much strength, because the problem with repeating our past, it's the power of familiarity. And it's a big problem because in my case, I had to realize that as human beings, we are creatures of habit. Our brains, unfortunately, seek comfort in what it's known and familiar, even if it's not beneficial for us. For example, smoking, right? That's a bad habit. But a lot of people say that they use that to actually curb anxiety or anger or whatever, right? So they created this habit that when they feel anxious or when they feel some sort of way, they start smoking. But that's a bad habit, because what happens in the long term, like years down the road, you end up with lung cancer, throat cancer, or just like really, really sick. So it's that power of familiarity, because even though you know it's bad for you, you're still going to keep doing it because of the familiarity behind that. And we also cling to what we've known because it feels safe and predictable, even if it holds us back, which is one of the reasons why we keep making the same mistake and we feel stuck in our current situation, because this fucking power of familiarity is so strong. It's almost like a black hole. It just keeps pulling you towards that situation where you're just like, this is the same thing that happens every time. So it's familiar with me. I have some sort of control over it, so I'm gonna stick to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did that my entire life, and I see people doing it. That's why I want to talk about this, because my wife has done it, my family has done it, my friends some of my friends have done this, and I'm just like looking like, wow, because I used to do it. So I feel bad that they actually doing that, because it affects their lives. It affects their relationship. It affects everything. Everything in regards to how they live and how they literally run their lives. But one question I have for you, and probably you need to ask this yourself, or you need to ask this to yourself. Why do we keep gravitating towards the familiar, even when we consciously desire change? And that's a good question to ask yourself, because the answer lies deep within our subconscious mind, where our past experiences, beliefs, and conditioning reside. So it's very important to figure that out, because these subconscious patterns often dictate our choices and shape our reality without realizing it. It's kind of like living in autopilot. Like, you just keep doing the same thing because it feels familiar. You keep making the same mistakes because you have some sort of control. Even though it's not good for you, you still feel in control. Believe me, I made so many mistakes that were literally repetitive, and I felt like I wasn't in control. Like, I was like, oh, I can change this whenever I want to. But for some reason, I couldn't. So it was very frustrating in the end for me, and I don't want that to happen to you. Another thing that also dictates what we do in life, and one of the reasons why we keep repeating our past, is because of childhood experiences. Also societal influences, and the beliefs that are ingrained in us by our parents also play a significant role in shaping who we become as adults. Like when our parents, I don't know if this happened to you, but this is pretty much what happened to me. Let's say when our parents made us feel like we are dumb or that we are not good enough to have a good life, right? If your parents actually made you feel like that from childhood, when you're an adult, you already have this negative habit of thinking that way. So you're not gonna be willing to do something that may be beneficial for you, something that may change your life, like sometimes going to college, sometimes learning something new that will give you an idea or something like that. You're not gonna do that because of what happened during your childhood. You know what I mean? And another thing that affects us a lot, and this is the reason why people stay in like toxic relationships or they take abuse sometimes, is because of what we witness, all these patterns that we witness growing up from our parents. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, because whatever we see our parents doing becomes deeply rooted within us. And for example, let's say one of the parents, it doesn't matter if it's the dad or the mom, let's say they're getting abused by the other parent, right? If you witness that growing up, when you grow up and get in a relationship and you start getting abused just like your parent in this situation, you are going to feel this. You're going to feel that this is familiar. You're going to be like, well, this is what I saw growing up, so there's nothing wrong with it. My dad, my mom took it. Why can't I? So you're just going to decide to stay in that relationship because it's literally familiar. You saw that growing up and you never saw that person getting out of that situation, so you don't even know how to do that as well. And then what happens whenever you decide to leave, when you're strong enough and courageous enough to leave that situation, and then you jump into another relationship and you have the same problem, where there's abuse or shit like that, then it's just going to be like, well, it's familiar. And it gets to the point where you're going to be in so many bad relationships that it gets to the last relationship that you're going to be on, and you're just like, what? You know what? This is what I deserve. This is what life gave me. This is what I deserve. I'm not going to do anything about that. I'm just going to stay on this relationship no matter what, because of that power of familiarity. And one thing that I do want to say is, like, you have to remember, we learn a lot from watching our parents. So anything a parent does, a kid is learning from. This is a message for the parents. I'm not telling you again how to parent or anything like that. I'm just telling you, like, your kids are always watching what you do. So your habits, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, are actually going to dictate what they do in the future. And it doesn't matter if they repeat their mistakes over and over again. Sometimes that actually comes back to you. Again, I'm not putting any judgment or anything like that. And the problem with all of these things is that these cycles of what that we live on right now, where we keep repeating our past, are so hard to break. But if I was able to break free from repeating my past over and over and over again, I know you can too. But you must confront your fears. It doesn't matter what fear it is. If it's the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, and even the fear of success, you have to confront it, because any type of fear can actually keep you locked in familiar patterns. That's pretty much what the comfort zone does. It prevents you from doing other things because you're going to be afraid of not being able to do good or not being able to succeed and shit like that. So it's important to realize what kind of patterns are you following and what kind of fears you have in life. And you may be asking, Jordan, how do I stop myself from repeating my past? Well, I'm going to tell you what I did, and it may work for you. All you can do is try it. But because you must step outside of your comfort zone, which requires a lot of courage and a willingness to embrace uncertainty, which as humans, we don't like to embrace uncertainty. We're not built for that anymore. Back in the day before the internet, when we were hunters and gatherers, we used to embrace uncertainty as a human race. We used to do that a lot because we had to go hunt. And if we didn't find something to eat, we will not eat and sometimes starve to death. So we were getting pushed out of our comfort zone. Now you just go to the store. So there's no uncertainty, right? There's not that much of uncertainty. It's just like, oh, well, if I'm hungry, I can order, I can go to the store and wherever. I don't have to go hunt. So I know that my family is going to be fed, right? So we remove that uncertainty of having to find the food. So it's very important to understand this. So, and another thing that you have to do is that you have to be strong, because when I stepped out of my comfort zone, I was so scared. I was paralyzed by fear. But I learned through this courageous exploration that we can break free from the chains of repetition because we are stronger than we think. We are stronger than we think, and we can actually become stronger as long as we're willing to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. Another thing that you need to do is that you must learn to become self-aware and reflect on everything you do and say. Like when you say something negative about yourself, you have to reflect on it and say, how come I'm saying this about myself? Where is this coming from? And again, sometimes it may come back to your parents when they made you feel a certain way, and that is totally fine. You just have to change that way of thinking. But now, this is important, okay? Doing this can uncover all of the underlying reasons behind your repetitive behaviors by examining what you do, all of the patterns, your beliefs, and your triggers, which is extremely important, because through this self-reflection, we gain valuable insight that empowers us to make different choices, break free, and find a way out. Literally, you can, when you do this, you say to yourself, and at least this is what I said to myself, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of living this life. I'm going to do something better. And I'll give you this example again. I'm full of examples today, right? But I feel like you need to understand this, because with how life is changing right now, if you don't break free from repeating your past over and over and over again, you're going to be left behind. And then you're going to get angry. And there's so many things that could happen. And I don't want you to do that, because I've been there and I know it feels so bad. It literally feels like you're worthless. And I honestly don't want anybody to go through that. But my example for this situation is like, let's say you're broke, right? You are broke. And your spending habits are part of the problem, which happens a lot. Then in those type of situations, you need to reflect on why you spend so much money on things that you may not even need. Like, you don't need 20 purses from Coach or Louis Vuitton because they may be expensive, especially if they're holding you back from reaching a financial goal that you have, because you get so anxious and be like, oh, I need to have that. So I'm going to buy it, even though I won't be able to afford my rent, right? I've seen people do that. So you also need to understand why you're doing all of this, and you need to reflect on if you're doing this because you're trying to fill in an emotional hole or anything like that, or is it because you're trying to look like you can afford a particular lifestyle so others will accept you. And everything depends on what you find. And based on what you find, when you start reflecting on what you do, then you start taking the necessary steps to not do that if it's not beneficial for you. If it's not beneficial for you, get rid of that habit. Get rid of that thinking. Change your mindset, which is also hard. Another thing that you need to do as well, and this is kind of hard for everybody. It was so hard for me because you need to learn forgiveness, which is so hard, and it makes you feel like you're letting the other person get away with murder sometimes, right? But it's not like that. This is what I learned, because when you hold on to grudges and resentment, you literally are tying yourself to the past, which is going to hinder your personal growth. Because forgiveness, both for ourselves and others, is a powerful tool for liberation and healing. Literally breaks a chain. That's how I felt, at least. It broke a chain, and I felt free. And I felt like I was able to heal from that point on, because it allows us to release the emotional baggage that weighs us down and creates a space for new possibilities. Because now you're not carrying this burden that, oh, I hate that person, this person did this to me, whatever. It's not about that, and it's not about them. It's about you. Because when you learn to forgive, you can actually move forward. Nothing will hold you back anymore. Nothing will be literally behind you, and every time you look back, you will look at it and stare at it and be like, oh, I hate this. That's not gonna happen anymore. At least that's how I feel. I feel now. But here's the major thing about today's episode, because finding a way out of your current situation so you don't repeat your past over and over and over again requires more than just understanding and forgiveness. It actually demands conscious effort and intentional action. It requires you to say goodbye to people and environments that are not good for you. So if it's not good for you, don't stay in that environment. It's okay to move out of state. It's okay to move, if you can afford it, obviously. It's okay to move out to a different part of the city where you're not tempted to do all these negative things that are holding you back. It's okay to actually say goodbye to friends that are holding you back, that make you feel a certain way about yourself that is negative. It's okay to do all of that, because it's not about them, it's about you. That's the type of action that you have to take. That's pretty much what you have to do in order for you to break free from repeating your past. Because if you stay in that environment and you live in that environment for so long, that you're just going to see everything negative, and you're just going to keep repeating everything that is negative for you. Because there's no other way to see it. It's literally you're trapped in this box. You're going to run into a wall. You're going to run into that wall and say, wow, this is life. I tripped. This is life. This is pretty much what I have to do. And I'm going to keep doing it, because there's no other way out of that box. So that's why you have to do something for you. So if you decide to leave your current situation, remember that it will take time to actually break free from repeating your past. It will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to overcome so much that way you don't fall back into that situation that you don't want to be in. That way you don't repeat your past. You don't get into the same type of relationships. You don't still have the same bad habits. It takes a lot of time and effort, but it's all up to you, and you alone can do this. You can get help from others, and that's totally fine. But you alone have to do it as well. You alone have to take the first step. You alone have to look and reflect and do some self-reflection. It's not that someone else can actually rescue you. It's you have to rescue yourself in this type of situations. And when somebody gives you feedback, when somebody tells you, hey, you're doing this wrong, don't take it in a wrong way. Don't get offended, because a lot of people are out there that are trying to help. That's why I'm doing the podcast, because I love to help people, because I know what it feels to be in those type of situations where you keep repeating your past. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then you feel bad about yourself. And I don't want you to go through that, because, again, I feel your pain. I've been through that. And that's what I wanted to share on today's episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the growth and the feedback. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The links are on the episode's description. And here are my final thoughts. Find a way to break free from a cycle that is not good for you, because in the end, your future self will thank you. And have a great day.